Greetings from Boston, Massachusetts. I'm Joni Seager. I'm the author of the Women's Atlas. Let me just hold that up for a second. The Women's Atlas, now in its 5th edition, published by the wonderful publisher in the UK, Myriad Editions. The Women's Atlas covers about 60 topics divided into sections of health, work, formal and informal power, mechanisms of oppression, mechanisms of activism and organizing, in which we take data, statistics, narrative, qualitative and quantitative information about women's lives, and with the help of the wonderful graphic designers at Myriad, we make it into a map-based, graphics-based exposition on the nature of women's lives. Really, the purpose is to kind of reframe our view of the world through the lives of women, taking women seriously, asking questions about how women lead their everyday lives and how that looks like or doesn't look like their male counterparts. So, as I said, this is the 5th edition of the Women's Atlas, and whenever I finish one edition, I always make notes of what I thought I needed to include in the next edition. And so I was asked to talk about that, and I'll just talk about it for just a minute. One of the things that, as a feminist geographer and environmentalist, one of the things that I feel really in the next edition would have to be much more foregrounded than now, is a wide range of environmental topics. I mean, obviously that is covered in this atlas. I have maps and graphic-based information on water supply and malaria and exposure to household air pollution. But I would expand that, and I would like to do more on plastics and on toxins and the gender differences in those exposures. And of course, climate change, which is probably almost worth an atlas in itself, gender and climate change. I'm not suggesting that, but certainly a huge and pressing and important topic. At this very moment, of course, for many of us, COVID is in the front of our minds, and it would be really interesting to do almost kind of a mini graphic display on gender and COVID, because there are huge gender gaps in how this pandemic is playing out. Obviously, there's been discussion of this in the media. Probably many of you are already aware of the quite significant gender differences that this pandemic has both revealed and also exacerbated and made more visible. So differences in who are the essential workers in the healthcare system, when food supplies are low and food security is accelerated, that plays out differently often for men and women particularly in their roles or presumed roles as household care providers. Access to food might be short, but also access to reproductive and women's health-based supplies, so sanitary supplies, condoms and other reproductive needs often can't be met when supplies have dried up and people are literally locked down. There's been a lot in the press about increases in domestic violence as people are locked in together. So there are many topics that we could do in a mini COVID atlas. I'm not sure that will be a primary feature of the next edition, but it's certainly something we should bear in mind. I'll just say for a minute what it is as a feminist geographer and environmentalist that I bring to the world of women. Feminist geographers look at how power and gender track along environmental lines, and that is human-made environments such as cities, and our encounter and manipulation of natural environments. So, as we are seeing right now with the Black Lives Matter protests and the horrible killings of Black people by police in the U.S., we can certainly see that the urban experience is different for women and for men, and for racialized minorities and racialized majorities. So that would be one example, looking at urban environments. natural environments, we know that disasters play out very differently for men and for women, and again for people who occupy different strata of our social power and power and privilege pyramid. So on that, I think my time's up, but I'm thrilled to be here, and best wishes for the rest of the festival. Thank you.